So we're going to go through the agenda. Welcome, everyone. The meeting is being recorded so that we can share this with others who were not able to attend in person. So just be aware that you're being recorded. I'm Sherry Bear Lewis. I'm the Disaster Program Manager here in Northern Nevada, and this is our weekly Northern Nevada Volunteer Opportunities and Updates meeting, where we cover what's happening in disaster cycle services in Northern Nevada. So first, I want to welcome, we did not have any brand new volunteers this week. These were the names that we welcomed last week. They were highlighted red to remind me to update it. But welcome to those who are in attendance. Does anyone have any questions since our last meeting about what we covered in our last meeting or anything that happened this past week? Okay, hearing none.
Hi, Sherry.
Oh, hi,
Sherry.
Chico. Welcome.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to make sure I was on the right one. Earlier I was looking at last week.
Oh, well, hopefully it's the same link week after week, which is why you guys get those annoying updates each time I change it. It updates for all future meetings.
Okay.
So hopefully you were able to get on. But Chico, I'm glad you were able to join us. I requested your Red Cross email and it was processed. Did you get an email in your private email telling you how to the next instructions and the next steps?
Not yet.
Okay. I'm going to forward the email they received to me to your private email, and it just talks about how you log in and set your password and all of that good stuff. It does not automatically change your volunteer connection login email. That will still be your old email until you change that if you want it changed that way, okay?
I got it. Thank you.
So reach out to me if you have any challenges with that. Sometimes it can be tricky with the logins to get it all synced up. So just reach out to me if you have any challenges, and you know how to reach IT as well. That being said, if any other volunteers want a Red Cross email address, let me know. Not everyone needs one, but it is essential for our recovery workers. Most of the people who are on our individual disaster care teams, like disaster health services, disaster mental health, and disaster spiritual care, it also gives you full access to the Office suite. So if you don't already have that on your personal computer, it gives you access to all of those programs. And when I say all those programs, I basically mean everything shown here. So Outlook, OneDrive is an online place where all of your files can live. Word, Excel, and then there's a ton of other different applications as well that you can have, or it's going to make me sign in. I'm not going to go through that, but there's a lot of other applications that you might find useful that do different things and tasks. So having a Red Cross email gets you access to all of those things. It also allows you to access some SharePoint sites where other information for the region is shared and stored. So if you guys have any desire, like I said, to get a Red Cross email, let me know. I put the request in. It's just that simple. Anyone have any questions about the Red Cross email? Okay. Any other questions from our last meeting or things that happened this week? Okay. So as of total in September, we had a total of 4 DAT responses. So it was a pretty slow month. That being said, all of those 4 responses were in the last couple weeks of the month. So they are getting to be more frequent. So thank you to all of those responders who went out last month. Barbara Day, Mindy Sue, Mike Algier, Courtney Lewis, Gail Bursell, Jim Rich, Peter Etchert, Dave Nyberg, and Jennifer Janes, please fill me in, but I think that you were assigned to a call but didn't go out. Is that right? You tried to
Yeah,
go
that's
on a
correct.
call?
They called me and said that I was the first one they called, and then they called someone else. I can't remember the names they said, but there was two Red Cross volunteers that were already together, so they went to the call um, because they already had two people together. So I just, stayed home for that one.
Okay. Now, would you have liked to have gone for the experience, even if there were two other responders, or were you fine to back out?
So they did say, if you still want to go, you can. But I was okay to just stay home.
Okay. So the reason why I asked is because that happened when I was working as duty officer to with a call in Utah. And there was some miscommunication because the call came in right before I left as duty officer and another duty officer came on. I had sent out a communication to all the responders asking for people to reply if they could go. One person called me, and so I assigned that person to the call, but I was still looking for a second responder. Then I kind of passed the call off to another duty officer because the shift change happened. That duty officer telephoned some responders. And similarly to your call, Jen, there were two responders who were either together or lived close together or responded together regularly. And so they were assigned to the call and they went out. But what happened is that the initial person was not notified. And so they were kind of hanging out waiting to hear if that second responder was found, when they were supposed to go. And so they were left hanging a little bit. And I want to make sure that doesn't happen with our team. So it's something that I'm going to bring up at the next duty officer meeting so that hopefully we can alleviate that, because that person, that responder would have actually gone just to get the experience because she hadn't been able to go on that many DAC calls before. And so she missed an opportunity to gain some of that experience that she could have by observing more experienced responders, even if she wasn't necessarily needed for the call. So anytime that you guys receive those communications for DAC calls, if you do want to go, even if they find other responders, please make sure the duty officer knows that so that you can get that opportunity to gain experience if you want it. And so that you're
Yeah,
not.
I will say they were, at least in my situation, they were good about communicating and got back to me. So at least for
Good.
me, I didn't have any issues.
Good. And it was awesome to hear that they gave you the opportunity to go if you wanted. Because I think that's the important piece. We just want people, especially when, we only get 4 calls in a month. We want to be able to make sure that the new people who come on board are able to get experience when they're available and want it. So I'm so glad to hear that, Jen, and that's exactly why I wanted to follow up with you, because that's exactly how it should go, is that you should just be given the opportunity even if you're not needed. So that being, and thank you for offering to go. I probably missed some people and saying thank you to some people who offer to go, because I actually only can see who's been assigned. So please share feedback with me or questions if you guys ever get assigned to a call or unassigned or have any questions about how a disaster action team call went. We're also going to be talking about it at our upcoming disaster action team meeting. And those occur the 3rd Monday of every month. So I think this month, our disaster action team meeting is going to be on the 16th. And you can be here in person or online virtually. And it's usually hosted by Jim Rich, though he may be going to Hawaii to support government operations for the disaster response that's happening there. If that happens, I'll be hosting that meeting. So either way, we're going to have our next disaster action team meeting on Monday the 16th at 6 p.m. And I'll make sure that invite and the link to the meeting is included in our agenda the week prior for this meeting. Does anyone have any questions about our disaster action team responses that happened in September, or any feedback about how any of them went?
Sherry, did the door hangers get placed on all the events, or whatever you call them?
No, the last door hanging that's been done, Chico, was by the Held family, you and Jean.
Okay.
So we're going to be having that meeting again. It's going to be the last Monday of October. We have those meetings, but I'm hoping that you and Jean and Sherry and I can connect sometime before then. Only because all three of you guys were out of town during our last meeting. So it was a meeting of one last month. But
There you go.
but I had a great conversation and made a lot of great plans for us.
With yourself? That's a little
With
schizophrenic,
myself.
isn't it?
But we didn't have that many disaster action team calls. So let's see if this link will work. Okay, it did. So 3 out of 4 of our calls were in Washoe. This one was at an apartment complex right near our office. And then we have these 2 neighborhoods, the Santa Ana Drive neighborhood and the Buena Vista Avenue neighborhood, which I'm not certain where either of those are. And then we did have one call in Carson City. So I'd love to get the 4 of us just on a call and see if we can knock out the ones in Reno. And maybe we'll find a couple team members who want to do this area in Carson City. But thank you for bringing that up. If any of you are curious about what Chico and I are talking about, it's that we've created a work group called our Post-Home Fire Outreach Work Group. And we're hoping to go out into those communities where we've responded to disaster action team calls, hopefully right after them or as close to the time of them happening as possible, and hang door hangers in that community while that fire is fresh in their mind, prompting them to reach out and request smoke detector installations from our home fire campaign that goes out every Wednesday and Friday to those homes where people have requested smoke detector installations. They also do some education, some home fire preparation education, as well as in just disaster preparedness education, how to be ready to go quickly if a fire should occur at their home. So if you guys are interested in joining that work group, or if you want to be part of the teams that go out and hang those door hangers and do that outreach, please let me know. Everyone is invited to participate. No training is required. And like I said, we have a work group meeting once a month, the 4th Monday of the month at 3 p.m. And that will be included in our agenda for this meeting the week previous to it or prior to it. Something else we're going to cover at the next disaster action team meeting, but I'm going to touch on it briefly here, is some things that we want to include in our notes if we do go out on a disaster action team call. And the reason why I'm bringing it up on this meeting as opposed to just our disaster action team meeting is this is all the same information that we ask clients who are impacted by any disaster, whether it be a disaster our disaster action team responds to, or clients we might be working with in a shelter situation if they're prompted to evacuate their home or looking for assistance. So one of the very first questions we ask them is if they have insurance and if they've called them. So after a disaster, a lot of times people don't know how to take the very first next step because they're frazzled, they're in shock about what has occurred. It's something they haven't dealt with before. We don't have disasters in our lives every day, thankfully. So it's not something people are regularly experienced at. So even if you have insurance, even if people have insurance, it's not necessarily the first call they think of making. And it may not be your very first call, but it should be one you make right away as soon as possible after a disaster occurs, because they may have resources available for that client to start their recovery process. There might be funds available for them to go get a hotel or a motel so they don't have to stay in a shelter. So it's one of the first questions we ask when we go on a disaster action team call. It's also one of the first questions we ask folks when they come to a shelter and we're trying to help support them through the recovery. Also about pets. Do they have any pets? And how are those pets being cared for? So on a disaster action team call, a lot of times people aren't even aware of their pet status yet. Sometimes they run away from the home. Sometimes the people were not at the home when the fire started and pets escape, or sometimes they don't and they might be missing or presumed deceased. So we want to understand if they have pets, if we can support them in caring for their pets, if they know their whereabouts, or if they don't know their whereabouts, how we can support them in finding them or staying in communication with them and other agencies if they are found. How does that look at a shelter? Well, a lot of people don't want to part with their pets. And a lot of times, especially in Nevada, our pets are not welcome to cohabitate in the shelters. Red Cross in general tries to work with partners to co-locate pets at shelter sites, but they're not typically in the shelter with them. So they might be in a separate building, usually in crates or other type of containment areas where a partner agency is helping support their needs. A lot of people don't want to come to shelters if they can't bring their pets. So it's helpful for us to understand where they're going to go or what other services may be available for pet owners if they're not willing to shelter with their pets in a co-located environment. The other thing we ask is, do you have a place to stay? Clearly, if they're showing up at a shelter and asking to stay the night there, they don't have a place to stay. But other people will come to a shelter and they will ask for resources, but they have a place to stay. They just don't know what next steps to take, or they may not have food or other things they require. So they may seek that at a shelter. For a disaster action team call, this is one of our primary concerns. Do you have a place to go right now if you've been displaced from your home, especially in the middle of the night? We may or may not be able to find them a specific place to go, or we may be able to provide them a client assistance card or some other funds to help them get their own place. That's usually the case with a disaster action team call. If we have a shelter open, they're not going to be offered financial assistance, but they'll be offered a place to stay. We also need to note and ask what damage was done, especially if the home is uninhabitable. Why is it uninhabitable? Is it because there's smoke damage and no other visible damage? Is the electric off in the whole building because there was an electric fire or something that impacted the electrical system during the fire? Or was the fire confined to a bedroom or a garage area? Those are all important things for us to understand the level of damage to the home, because that will indicate whether they're eligible for different levels of assistance. So during a disaster action team call, if a home is deemed to have sustained major damage, or it is considered a total loss, or if people are not able to use the home because the utilities have been cut off for an anticipated amount of time of 48 hours or more, then we can usually provide them some financial assistance. And they can use those funds however they want towards their recovery process. In a shelter situation, this information is going to help us for the same reason. They may not qualify for immediate financial assistance, but once financial assistance starts for that disaster relief operation, the same criteria is used. If their home sustained major damage or was destroyed, it will qualify them for financial assistance. If they tell us ahead of time that they believe their home qualifies, we know where to send our disaster action team, or not, I'm sorry, our disaster assessment team out to go and assess that damage and report it back to the disaster relief operation, who then confirms, yes, these folks qualify for assistance. The other thing that we give to clients when we go on a disaster action team call, or if we're supporting them in a shelter situation, is a referral list of other partner agencies they can reach out to support them in their recovery based on their circumstances. So those are all things we want to include in our notes and ask clients when we're supporting them on a disaster action team call, or if we're supporting them in a shelter environment on a disaster relief operation, or we're supporting as a recovery caseworker. Does anyone have any questions about that information, why we asked for it, and why I brought it up at this meeting? Okay, quiet group today. If you guys think of anything, please reach out to me. And like I said, we're going to cover that more thoroughly at our disaster action team meeting and show you specifically where those notes should be entered in RC Respond if you're a user of RC Respond and RC Care. I want to say finally, and I've already thanked all these individuals at previous meetings, but thank you to everyone who has deployed to the various disaster relief operations throughout the nation. Just in September, we had 7 individuals: Gail Bursell, Ralph Kirsten, Jean Held, Danella Borelli, Tim Christie, Ann Tanner, and Aaron Richardson, all deployed from Northern Nevada to support those disasters. We are already off to a great start in October because we assigned Leslie Hall and Lou Schwartz today. They're going to be going to Maui. They're flying tomorrow to support sheltering there. And there's also other open positions. So if you have 2 weeks open on your calendar and you're interested in deploying, there are still opportunities. We'll talk about the locations a little bit further on down in the meeting, but please reach out if you have time available and you're interested in going. Even if you don't currently have a gap or a group activity position that they're currently seeking. Some positions you might just need 1 or 2 classes that might be a video or 2 that could make you qualify for that particular position that might be open. So if you have any desire in going, please reach out to me and we can have a conversation about the positions that are open and what you might need specifically to qualify. Any questions on that, you guys? Okay.
Nope.
Well, last week I broadcast our meeting, you might say that, from Elko because I was able to attend the Eastern Nevada Regional Planning Workshop. There were a lot of agencies in attendance. FEMA was there. The Nevada Division of Emergency Management was there. And then all of these counties, Elko County, Humboldt County, White Pine County, Eureka County, Pershing County, and the Ely Reservation were all present. It was an incredible opportunity for all of us from the Eastern Nevada area to discuss how we can collaborate with those interagencies, how those counties can support each other, but how Red Cross and other community partners can contribute to the planning and any response efforts that happen in any of those areas. And the reason why it was most exciting for me is because none of those counties have the resources to respond on their own if a significant disaster happens in their areas. Red Cross does not have a ton of volunteers out in those areas. So we had some really frank conversations about where our resources should be located. It's now a top priority at the state level for all counties to identify where their shelter and evacuation trailers are located so that we can get together, Red Cross and each of these counties in the state, and can map all of our trailers so we all have visibility of where each other's resources are. Should something happen, how we can collaborate to get the resources from where they are to where they're needed as quickly as possible. It also gave me an opportunity to do a little bit of recruitment out in with these county emergency managers to let them know exactly what Red Cross does outside of responding to disasters. So I was able to talk about our preparedness programs and opportunities that we have to come together during times that are not disastrous, during our steady state times, to collaborate, work together, and build some rapport with one another. So when a disaster does happen, it's easier and can happen more effectively and efficiently and smoothly. So really good opportunity. Next week, I'm going to be in Carson City doing this same thing with our Western County partners. So I bring this up, one, because there's been a major change to our upcoming in-person meetings. I originally thought that I was going to be in Elko next week to give our meeting, but that's not the case because I'm going to be in Carson City for this 3-day workshop. So our next meeting on October 10th is going to still be in person, but it's going to be at the Carson City Library. So we can only have a maximum of 8 people in that space. Let me know if you're interested in attending this meeting in person. If we have more than 8 people, we'll find a different venue. But typically, we've had about 8 to 10 people at our last couple of meetings. So I thought the library would be a big enough space, and they don't charge us for it. So big change next week. The in-person meeting is not in Elko, but it is going to be in Carson City. And then we're going to do a meeting in Elko in person in February instead. The other reason for that is because I'm going to be in Elko on the 13th. They are having their fire department safety night. But also the following day is the big annular solar eclipse. Can I get a show of hands from all of y'all who know what I'm talking about? Did you know there's an eclipse coming up? Chico! Is that because I told you guys yesterday? I'm just kidding. There is an annular eclipse coming up on the 14th. Its best viewing area in the world is going to be Central Nevada, North Central Nevada, Winnemucca specifically. So those same emergency managers that I met with at the workshop last week, as well as the state Division of Emergency Management, they have some concerns about the thousands of people who may come into the area, but don't really know where they're going and don't really have a destination. So they're thinking it's possible that people could head out on not favorable roads and get stuck and possibly block roadways. There's not a lot of tow services out there. So if a situation happens where someone goes out on a dirt road, gets totally stuck, and blocks a lot of other people from getting in and out, there could be a situation that could need to be dealt with. Low probability, but the conversations are being had just in case. NASA is going to be broadcasting from Ely, Nevada. So there's going to be a lot of activity. My point being, I'm going to be spending the night out there in Elko, and I promised the emergency managers that I'm going to be available should anything occur, and I'm going to be between the Elko and the Winnemucca area. But I can easily get to Ely or any of those other places where something may happen. I'm also going to be sending out a survey similar to the ones I was sending out throughout the winter when we had all the flood warnings and watches, just to gauge responders availability. So if you're going to be in the area and you have any flexibility at all, the weekend of the 13th, 14th, and 15th, to respond should something occur, please let me know in that survey when and where you'd be available, just so that we have a team on standby should something come up. Does anyone have any questions, or do you want any tips on where you should go to view this eclipse? No? All right. Well, if you guys want to join me, I will be somewhere between Elko and Winnemucca. It might be in the Battle Mountain area out there. National Guard has an armory out there, and I was invited to come watch out there. So that might be where I will be if any of you are interested in joining in the eclipse fun. I did jump a little bit ahead, but it's because I wanted to emphasize that big change. We also have coming up, like I said, that Elko Fire Department Fire Safety Night. I will be there to meet the team and be there at that event with the team. Sarah, I saw you on the call. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to join in the fun that night, but Hannah and both Eric and Amber Weimer are going to be there, and we would love to see you there or stop by if you're going to be around.
I should be able to stop by.
Yay! I love that. Okay, wonderful news. And please, if any of them reach out to you and are worried about, oh my gosh, we don't have the stuff, I'm going to be sending them an email and reaching out to let them know, but I will be there. So I'll be bringing everything we need for the event.
Great, thank you.
Yes, and I'm excited to see everybody. I missed seeing you guys last week, and I'm sorry I didn't coordinate anything. Those workshops went all day, and I was working into the wee hours, so I apologize. I didn't plan that better. Also upcoming, I did not mention yet, this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., I will be out in Winnemucca, and anyone else who wants to join for a road trip out to Winnemucca, a quick trip, I'll be at the Nevada State Fire Marshal family, and it's not safety night, it's actually safety day. And we're going to be working out there with Humboldt County and just talking about how people can prepare for disasters, whether they be home fires or a larger disaster that may prompt an evacuation in their area. So please join me if you want to take a road trip out there. Also, on that night in Sparks, we have Komatsu Family Safety Night. We think. We're still waiting for confirmation back. There's been some communication challenges, but again, this is welcome to all volunteers who want to support. If it happens, we're going to be doing Prepare with Pedro presentations, hands-only CPR, and Be Red Cross Ready presentations. So again, not expected to present unless you would like to, but all volunteers are welcome to support and be part of the fun. And again, we're going to be talking about, outside of the presentations, disaster preparedness, go kits, and maybe recruiting some volunteers, which would be really cool. And if you like checking out tractors, it's a spot for you. I personally like tractors. So any questions, you guys, about those two events coming up this Saturday? All right. Next week, this same time, we have our volunteer opportunities and updates meeting. Again, it's going to be in person. This needs to be removed. It's going to be in person in Carson City at the library. And let me know if you want to attend. And I apologize again that I didn't get these updates made earlier. I couldn't get in here. Also next week, 3 to 4 p.m., we have our weekly preparedness work group meeting where we talk about the events we have coming up, who's going to present at those events, and who's going to support. There's a lot of opportunities to support our preparedness team, even if you don't want to be a presenter. So please reach out to me and let me know if you'd like to join that team, support that team, or just participate in events when you're available, and we'll be sure to let you know.
So there'll be no virtual meeting next week?
It will be virtual as well. It's always
Okay.
virtual, but it will also be in person.
Gotcha.
Thank you. Thank you for asking, Chico. Yeah, very important, you guys. It will always be virtual, so everyone throughout our chapter has an opportunity to attend. But I'm trying to rotate around the in-person meetings so that everyone has an opportunity to attend at some point in person if they're available as well. So thank you. Yeah, but always virtual as well. We talked about the Elko Fire Department Fire Safety Night. I would welcome you guys to join me at that, but there's no hotel rooms because there's a bunch of people, thousands and thousands coming in town for this eclipse. I had a hard time finding a room. Individuals who live out there in Elko are already welcome and attending. So I can't open that up to the crew unless you want to camp out in the desert somewhere. The last time I looked, there were people still renting out camping spots for almost $100 a night out in the middle of the desert. Crazy. So if you own a place in the middle of the desert, you might be able to make some extra bucks if you can set up a campsite for people. Just a suggestion. We talked about the big annular solar eclipse. You guys will be able to see it from Washoe County and throughout Nevada. So it's very short window, 9:19 to 9:24, depending on where you're going to be. Starts more in the west, works its way east. So I think the full meal deal is going to be at 9:24 in Ely, and I think it's going to be as full as possible in Washoe County at 9:19. So really short window, and of course it lasts a while watching it kind of phase over the sun, or how they cover each other. Anyway, I am not an astrologist or an astronomer, as you can clearly tell by my speaking about annular solar eclipses, but you're welcome to check it out. Please wear safety glasses. Do not look directly at the eclipse. It can cause damage to your eyes. I can't go into the specifics of that either, but I trust the warning, and there are places that are going to be giving out free glasses. So if you do want to see those viewing glasses, I'm pretty sure you can go online, whatever county you're in, and do a search for free solar eclipse glasses. I think you can also go online and find cool ways to make your own, but I have not done that research. You would have to do it yourself.
Amazon will sell a group of 10 for $17.
There you go. You could sell them for $2 each and make a little profit. Thank you, Chico. I actually should go on and order some because I haven't figured out where I'm going to get mine yet. And I'm definitely going to be participating. Also coming up, and we're hoping everybody and their family attends, is on October 28th in Carson City, is the Nevada Day Parade. These times may change a little bit, you guys, because I have not received the specific information. The parade starts at 10 a.m. So my guess is that we're going to need to be there in the pre-staging area about 8:30. So that was my guess, but those times may change a little bit. We're hoping that everyone will dress in different periods of dress to show the extent of time that Red Cross has been supporting Northern Nevada, which has been since the late 1800s. So please, if you can, plan on attending. It should be a lot of fun. And yeah, we want the whole family there so we can meet your whole crew. Any questions about that? Okay. So some team members we needed. This is a kind of a carryover from last week, you guys, because I did not get an opportunity to update it, but it's always a great need. The workshop I attended last week is more reinforcement of the need. But basically, we need folks who want to engage with our government entities, whether it be our counties, our counties, or other government entities that support in disaster response, as well as preparedness and recovery. So if you have any interest in being a liaison working between Red Cross and any government entity, please let me know. Government operations may be something you'd enjoy pursuing. I really have loved it, and it's been most of what I've done in Red Cross. I've had amazing opportunities to work with all sorts of individuals from across the nation and see how things are done similarly, but how things are done differently. So if you're curious about overall operations or how things work, please check it out. The same is true for community engagement, but with our community partners. And honestly, I love both about the same. You're really working on how you can get stuff, resources to the people who need it most, and how you can work together to make it happen as quickly as possible. So it can be challenging, but it can be extremely rewarding, and a really awesome opportunity for folks who are interested. So if you're curious about it or wonder what it looks like, please reach out to me, and we can talk about what the training looks like and what the opportunities are in your area. And essentially, we need government operations and community engagement partner volunteers throughout our state, because we could have a disaster in a very, in any area at any time. So any questions about government operations or community engagement? All right. Let's talk deployment opportunities. So all this stuff in red is old from the last meeting that I wasn't able to update because of access. So I'm going to go right into Volunteer Connection, you guys, and we're going to look and see what positions are open right at the moment. I want you guys to keep in mind that the view I'm looking at, you don't have. So you will not be able to go in and look in the same spot that I'm looking. But I want to just open it up so we can look at all the positions that they're trying to fill right now. So 19 different positions, but we have several openings. So shelter resident transition caseworker, supervisor, and service associates are needed terribly. I think I'm going to open this up and it's going to show Maui, but it may also show Florida. Nope, everybody needed in Maui. The shelter resident transition team members are those folks that are working with the clients that are staying in shelter. And when I say in shelter in Hawaii, I mean in hotels, motels, condominiums, or other homes that have been lent to them for use, right, during their evacuation. No clients in Hawaii right now are in traditional congregate shelters. So what does shelter resident transition look like when people are staying in hotels or motels versus a congregate shelter? It means site visits, right? So my guess is that shelter resident transition caseworkers are going out in teams of 2 and meeting with individuals at these locations where people are staying at these hotels, motels, condominiums, and identifying what the roadblocks are for them in moving forward in their recovery process. Meaning, what is keeping them at that hotel, motel? Is it that their house was destroyed and they don't have insurance? Is it that their house sustained some damage but hasn't been repaired yet? Is it that their home is okay, but they're not allowed to go back to the area yet because the utilities are not active in their neighborhood? Is it that they have a relative that they can stay with, maybe in the continental United States, but they don't have the funds to fly from Hawaii with their family to that other relative's place? So it's really identifying what the roadblocks are, preventing people from moving forward in that next step of recovery. If you guys have any interest in pursuing these positions, they are always needed, especially for large disasters like Hawaii, where so many people have been displaced and so many homes have been lost. It does take some training and some experience. So if you are interested in this, you may not be able to go do it in Hawaii this time, but it is something that you could work towards to support other disasters because it always is a great need. That being said, there are a lot of open positions. So as time goes on and there's that quantity of open positions, they usually will back down on the experience requirements. And they'll usually say, we can train people here if they don't have that experience. Right now, they're not to that point yet, but please reach out to me if you're interested. There are also a lot of open shelter positions, 22 in total, but most of these are not open to the whole United States. Right now, there's only 2 open positions that are open to the whole US, and that is in Arizona. So if there are any shelter workers out there, there's 2 open positions in Arizona that we could assign you to. Other positions that are open: transportation. And I'm just going to go through the ones that are service associate positions because we do not have a ton of supervisors on our team. If you're interested in becoming a supervisor, you can see there's a lot of deployment opportunities for you almost all the time. We have open positions for service associates in disaster mental health and disaster health services. So anyone who has gaps or positions in disaster health services, disaster mental health, transportation, sheltering, or recovery, or staff services, let me know and we can get you assigned. Most of the positions, in fact, all of them except for that one in Arizona that I've seen, are for Hawaii. There is a border mission that is being activated, and that may be that Arizona position. That's the first time I saw Arizona on here. I don't have a ton of details about the border mission, but I'm hoping to share out some information at our next meeting. Does anyone have any questions about deployment opportunities? Okay. The other thing that I announced recently, but he's been really actively working at updating our tools and making things really user-friendly, is our fleet management. We have a new fleet manager. His name is Dave Kidwell. He's also taking over the management of our emergency response vehicle. I'm going to let him share more about what he's been working on at our next meeting. But I do want you guys to be aware that the way we track the 25 miles the ERV is driven every couple of weeks is being managed a little bit differently than it has in the past. In the past, we had a list that you signed up on the wall. We now have our ERV that's on our calendar for vehicles. So if you are an authorized driver, you should already be familiar with this vehicle reservations calendar. We used to just have all of our chapter vehicles on here. Our normal traditional vehicles, our pickups and our cars, but we now have our ERV. It's this Mercedes Sprinter. I'm sorry it doesn't say ERV. You'll have to just remember that our ERV is a Mercedes Sprinter. But if there's ever an event that we're going to use it for, like our upcoming parade, Nevada Day Parade, we can now reserve it and see it on the calendar. Also, if you guys are going to be participating in that 25-mile program, you can sign up for the specific day and time that you're going to take it out for that 25-mile drive. If any of you are interested in becoming ERV drivers or authorized drivers to use our other fleet vehicles for any other Red Cross business, please reach out to me and I can walk you through the steps. It's super easy. One of the classes that you're required to take is a defensive driving class that can possibly, not always, but possibly get you a discount on your private vehicle insurance. So there's a couple of benefits to that. You can use our vehicles, you might get a discount, and you can also show our Red Cross branding out there in the community anytime you use a vehicle. Does anyone have any questions about our fleet or the ERV or anything we covered at this meeting today? Okay.
No, ma'am.
All right. The last thing I'm just going to remind us all about, again, next week, we are not in Elko. We are going to be in Carson City. So please, no one go to the meeting in Elko. If you're not able to join us in person at the Carson City Library at 4 p.m., please join us online because the meeting is always available virtually. If any of you are interested in tagging along with me to that workshop in Western Nevada, or for Western Nevada counties that's in Carson City, it's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. Anyone is welcome to attend with me. If you're just curious about government operations, how our counties talk to each other, how they do planning with the Division of Emergency Management at the state level or with FEMA, please tag along and just enjoy the experience and opportunity. Reach out to me directly for that. I'll be using a chapter vehicle and going through Reno each day. So I can really pick up anyone between Bird Eye, Mogul, Reno, Carson City, anything along the route. So reach out to me if you're interested. With that, any last minute questions, closing remarks, anything I forgot to bring up?
Do all those January, February, March, and April things need to be changed to 2024?
Oh, Chico, come on, man. We can go back in time. Yes, yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you. That would be quite a trick.
No problem.
Anything else, team? All right, with that, we're going to wrap it up 5 minutes early. Thank you all for attending. Thank you all for watching. If you were not able to attend in person but are catching this on YouTube, as always, I appreciate your time. And please remember to record your hours if you attended this meeting or watched. Have a good afternoon.